Greetings, greetings, greetings. Hello, folks. Can you see me and hear me? Say hello in the chat box. We're getting started in just a moment. We're a little bit late because we were having trouble with the internet, but now we're here. And I hope you can say hello in the chat box. So today we are sketching together and chatting about International Nature Journaling Week, which was founded by Beth Ann Burton in Brisbane, Australia a few years ago. And so we are honoring her and honoring the event. Today's the first day of 7 days, and each day has a different theme. And today's theme is describing the indescribable. So I've got some sort of indescribable things here. Probably not as esoteric as they could be, but it was the craziest things I could find. So anyway, please tell me in the chat if you're here, if you can see me and hear me, if you plan to follow along. I'm just going to play with a few different materials here. And if you want to know more about my materials at the end of today's live event, you can go watch yesterday's, where we sketched some things like this very indescribable rock that looks like an eyeball. And we sketched this really weird, indescribable seed pod that I brought back. So anyway, tell me in the chat box if you've ever heard of International Nature Journaling Week, if you've ever participated. So let's get this out of the way here. And so, yeah, we're going to do some sketching and journaling. So, if you come upon something indescribable, it's good to journal it. That's one of the best things to journal, actually. And so I have a few things here you might not recognize, or you might. I've got this strange shaped burl thingy I found in the backyard, and some amazing paper wasp nest. And interestingly, a relative, the honeybee, this is the honeycomb, and it smells so good. And then I have some other things here. If I put names on them, sometimes that makes people stop looking. So I'm not going to name everything. So why don't we start with one thing? Now, when we're going to journal, we're going to try to journal this thing. And so it's nice to put some words on there first, so it's more than just a sketch. So basically, nature journaling is a combination of sketching and words and diagrams and quotes, and there's no end to what you can add. So we can start with some words. I have to tell you right now, my thumb is still a little bit sore. I've been gardening a lot, so I'm actually, and I have a sore throat too. So I'm actually drinking a bunch of tea, so hopefully my throat will make it. And I've been using this soothing throat spray. So I hope I can make it through today's event. Yeah. So some of you watching may have gotten my email today. Tell me in the chat box if you got my email and downloaded your nature sketching starter kit. If you didn't, you can comment in the chat box and I can get that to you. So that just has some fun things in it. Okay, so let's start. It's nice, when you're adding words to have some hierarchy to your words. So I like to, start with, a bigger text and then something smaller. So we've got something indescribable here that we're going to try to describe. And you might want to put, the date. Oh my gosh, it's June 1st already. And any other metadata, as we call it. So that would be like the weather or where you're at or that kind of thing. This I actually found on the beach in Mendocino, California. So this is a found object. Now you can sketch along with me, or if you have something, you can just go along with yourself. So anyway, I start off with some really big text just to give some hierarchy. And then I'll use some smaller text with a smaller pencil to help lead the eye. Marguerite, are the green things from a maple tree? Yes, these are. These are actually maple samaras. And that is the very unique name for the fruit of a maple tree. And so they have these wings that help them fly away from the tree. And then in here is where the seed pods would develop. But I'm observing that it's very flat still. So I picked these before they had a chance to make fruit. Okay, so anyway, sometimes it's really fun to draw something that's a little bit indescribable because sometimes that helps you to get out of your left brain. You know, if we draw something that's really too obvious, maybe like a seashell, we might just draw our symbol in our head of that seashell. And you know, if you have kids or grandkids, you take them to the zoo or something, they're so interested in asking about everything. But as soon as they ask the name and you tell it to them, like, oh, there's a flying lemur, then they run off to the next exhibit, right? They stop looking. So sometimes it's really cool to draw something that is indescribable so that you can really focus on looking at it. So we're going to draw that a bit together. And I think when I'm sketching, like I said in yesterday's live, when I'm in the field, I'm pretty much always using pens. But for fun, since this has so many cool shapes, I'm going to add some black and white charcoal to this beautiful toned paper so we can get something really three-dimensional. But, you know, whether you're sketching something else or you're following along, it doesn't matter what kind of paper you have or what kind of materials. The idea is to just look at something. And, you know, you really want to observe something before you start journaling it. So really look intensely at something, look at its size, its shape, its color, um, look for some evidence of it being eaten. Like often these bones will have chew marks on them from squirrels. And often nature journaling is more than just about drawing a static object like something like this. It's more about getting out in the field and seeing interactions and behaviors and habitats. So, for example, if I was seeing a squirrel gnawing on this, that would be a very interesting behavior to note, and I could ask some questions about it. And so, yeah, you want to look intently, but sometimes the looking really takes away from understanding something. Again, if you know what something is, you can jump to conclusions and then just start drawing it and not really look at it. And I have a really fun exercise I do with people, my students, and with kids. And I suggest you try this sometime too, where you put an object in a paper bag, or I don't have a paper bag, but I have this, and you cover it up. And ideally, maybe a friend would have given you an object that's in a bag and you don't know what it is, but you put your hand inside like this. See, my hand is inside of it. And I'm just going to feel that. And sometimes taking away your eyesight really helps you to feel the three-dimensional form. And I actually have students draw an entire drawing from just feeling. I think I have a video about that on this YouTube channel somewhere. So that's a fun thing that helps to make something even more indescribable. So I'd like to hopefully we can draw a few things, but I'm going to draw this first. And I'm just going to do kind of a contour drawing so we don't take all day and that so we get out of perfectionism. And I am looking at this from a different angle than you are because my camera that you're looking at is right above me here. And I'm drawing it from this angle here. So my drawing is going to look a little bit different than yours. And we'll name this later. You might know what it is, but don't say yet. But we'll name this later. So we'll just draw it here and then maybe add some more journaling notes here, as if we did find it while we're on a walk on the beach. And again, we have observed it closely. We've felt the three-dimensional form, especially these very interesting ridges. We could even speak about it. So using all of your senses really helps you learn something. Just like right now, I'm studying Spanish. I'm going to start drawing this and just keep talking. So there's kind of this little smiley face here. So I'm learning Spanish right now, and it really helps me to both see the speaker speaking, as well as having the closed captioning of the Spanish and the English below it, and saying the words out loud. And all of those things really help. So that's just my contour of the outside, then kind of describing this weird thing. It's kind of like a little ridge, and it goes up. And from my view, of course, this part is going closer to the edge. Now you see how this just moved. And I mentioned to people yesterday, the way to get something to not move is to have a little bit of a kneadable eraser. And then you can just squish it down and it'll just stick it there better than, especially if it's something roly-poly, like something like this, they could roll off. All right. So, I'm noticing that it really has a very cool three-dimensional form, and it's got this cool ridge, and it has this cool little smiley face, little, what would you call this? I'm not going to say the scientific word because you would know, but it's got like a little half moon shape, an arc, maybe an arc. So it's nice to use some words and all that. And if you don't have color, if you're not planning to add color, like, I've got my watercolor set here that I could add color if I wanted to. You can just make some color notes, since I'm going to be drawing this in just values using my little value scale here. So you could note that it's got a sort of a cream color, maybe. And then you might even want to use your other senses. And again, if you're not drawing this, if you're drawing something of your own, just follow along with me. So you might want to describe the scent. So I'm going to smell this. This is pretty old. Oh, now I dropped my, I dropped the kneadable eraser. So this doesn't have any scent, but of course, if it was fresh at the beach, it would have quite a scent. And in the old days, when I had a dog, my dog definitely would have found this a long time ago. So you want to use all your senses, looking, touching, speaking about what you see and smell. Listening. Now, this isn't going to say anything, but maybe if you had a seashell by the seashore, you might listen to it for seashell sounds. And then, you're going to write some descriptions. And again, I'm kind of using some different sizes here so that I have a kind of a, what do you call it? Different levels here. And then, of course, we're going to draw it. So I've got my outline, but what makes it really fun is really describing that three-dimensional form. And so, if you're nature journaling, you might not continue on with this. It just depends with your interests. You might like to write some more words, or even write a poem, or use a quote that relates to this. There is a very neat website, and it's called Brainy Quotes. I don't know if you can see my writing. Like I told you, my writing is terrible right now since I injured myself. brainyquotes.com, and you can go to that site and use any phrase like sunset or nature journaling, and it'll come up with famous quotes and parts of poetry that you could add to your nature journal page if you want. That's really fun. Okay, so anyway, since I have quite a bit of training in detailed scientific drawing, I always love to try to describe that three-dimensional form and, kind of consider my value scale of light to dark. And that's why I really love journaling on colored paper. And I have this other paper here too that we were journaling on in yesterday's event. If you want to go watch that afterwards, this is a gray color. And so there's a lot of different sketchbooks that come with colored papers, and they're wonderful for drawing things that are shades of white so that you can really think about that three-dimensional form, which might be harder to describe if you're just using a white piece of paper. And then it's really fun to add white highlights with charcoals. So often what I'll do with a white object is I'll add my highlights first here, since especially if I'm going to sketch with a charcoal pencil, that really smears. And they're not that great for the field, but they're really fun for demonstrating. And as we were talking about, today's theme is being indescribable. The more you look at something's three-dimensional form, the more you can understand it. So again, you can follow along or draw your own thing, but thinking about how you would show the highlights. And again, I start with those first because that's a white pencil, and I end up using my darker charcoal pencil. So I'm not going to smear it. So anyway, I get to put my value scale there and try to see where my highlights are. And there's a lot of white media you can use. And I talked a lot about that yesterday. Again, you can go watch yesterday's, but these are super easy. And so I am just looking, and again, mine is going to look a little different than yours because I'm looking at it from a slightly different angle. And I've got a light, since I'm in the studio, I have a light pointing this way. Oh, my sun should be over here. It's helpful to have one of those little sun icons. So yeah, I'm going to add a lot of this because this is real fast. So depending on the, and this is the ASMR sounds, whatever you call that. Yeah, so, right, yeah. And so I've got some of those, and I can get bolder too. As the famous Olympic snowboarder always said, go big or go home. And too often we're a little bit too shy about really getting some nice details. And again, the more you touch something and feel it, you can feel its shape. And so when I touch this, I can feel that this whole edge and well as this whole edge, they're coming up. And so that's why there's more of a highlight on the edge, but then there's a really slight shadow. So I really suggest you feel things so that you can really describe their three-dimensional form better. And so now I'm just going to add some of these darks, and I might leave the middle value as the color of the paper. And that's another way you can save time when you're in the field. There's some interesting textures here, I notice. And there's interesting textures here. Again, things I might not notice, especially because I have terrible eyes. And so feeling something is a little bit better. So we are describing now both the three-dimensional form and the texture with this, as well as as well as the color. So yeah, I see some of this here. And yeah, it's hard because I shouldn't be looking at my laptop screen because that's different lighting than what I have. So I should just be looking at this one. But I'm going to try to leave that middle value, okay? And we're going to have the darkest shadow here because the sun's going over here. And so we've got a deep, dark shadow that's sort of fading away as it gets into this highlight. Okay, and then we have a drop shadow too, or a cast shadow. And that helps to really lift the white structure off the paper. So can anybody tell me what we were drawing now that we've observed it? Does anybody know what we're drawing? Animal, mineral, or vegetable? I know there's some live people here. Well, I'm going to tell you. This is a scapula. Oh, wait. So again, we can have some different, so we can have some fun here. What am I? My pen is dying. What am I? That's terrible. You can't see that at all. I have a different one here. Where is it? Fine, small, medium. A medium one. Is that a little bit better? So, if you're watching the replay, you can guess in your mind what this is. This comes from a mammal, and we have one of these too. It's the scapula. So basically, right here, this articulates with your upper arm. And these ridges, and we could talk about the ridge is very tall to support a lot of muscles. Okay, isn't that super, super fun? Okay, I'm going to take a drink of my tea here because, like I said, and I'm going to put some throat spray on. All righty. Okay, we're going to move on. So yeah, anyway, in terms of journaling, you've got some words. You might, want to have some measurements. Like, for example, here's the same bone from a different kind of animal. Another scapula, much bigger. It's a different species, you can tell. So anyway, if I had a way to measure this, I don't know, it's maybe 10 centimeters. Why are all my pens dying? Oh, well. Okay, so let's go on and do another one. Here's a weird thing. Isn't this cute? But it's hard to put sideways. Anybody know what this thing is? This is kind of indescribable. This is a succulent from South Africa. But I'm going to move on to something else. This. Again, if you're joining live or watching the replay, you could tell me what you think it is, but don't say it too soon. Let's just look at it again. So I'm going to feel this. It feels a lot like wood. So it feels really sturdy. I can't squeeze it. It's not soft at all. Got this beautiful cream color. It's got a lot of holes, and there's a lot of larger holes and then some smaller holes, and then smaller holes next to those. And it's interesting to just kind of notice how far the holes are from each other. Sometimes when I'm drawing something like that, I will say, how much space is there between holes? And in this case, there's usually like a whole space. Like the circle for the hole is about the same size as the space between each hole, right? Now, you could feel it. You could see inside. It's hollow. You could smell it. Now, I've had this for decades. I think my girlfriend of mine brought me this in high school from a trip she took to the desert. Does that give you any hints about what this is? So I really love this. Doesn't have any smell, really. Could smell a little bit like wood. What's it sound like? So it sounds really hard. Okay. And so this, what are we gonna do with this thing? Now, I have a tip. Why can't I ever find anything? So again, I like to have a little bit of different sizes of text to make it really clear that you have your heading and then you have other parts. So this is super cool. So it's quite long. This is just a piece off of a bigger thing. Really sturdy. So really looking at it, and so yeah, just noticing. The more you look at something before you start drawing, the more deeply you'll really understand it, and you'll be able to draw it much faster. Now, something like that has a lot of repetition, similar to this very cool honeycomb that I found last winter when a tree had broken from the storm. It broke open the inside of the tree, and there was a whole beehive with all this honeycomb in it. And then this is part of a wasp nest. Look at how interesting those shapes are, how similar, because those are both hymenopterans, and they both make very interesting shapes. So anyway, when you have something like this, compared to something like this, there's a lot of repetition here, right? So it would take you all day to draw the whole thing, right? And so what I will often do is I will just make what they call a call out. So I would just, make a little, kind of a little what is happening to all my brushes? I would make a little symbolic shape here. And, we could call this, I don't know, 30 centimeters long. But we don't want to draw this whole thing. And so what I would do was I would do a call out and just do a tiny bit of it. And so I might do what they would say, like you'd make a little circle. You'd make a little circle here. And then you'd come down here and you'd make a bigger version. And you could have a big circle. So then you could get some more details. And so, we could have it like this. So that way we can really look at it up close more. And I'm going to just do the same technique I did before because it's really fun. And looking at here they are. So looking at those highlights first. And this is a different type of material, right, than this. and certainly different material than something super shiny like this, right? So the highlights are not going to be as obvious. They're going to be softer on this wooden structure than they are on this super shiny seashell or on this white bone here, the scapula. So I'm not going to go as overboard with my highlights like I did with the scapula. How's that there? So then, we could just do a little part of this right here. Okay, so let's just pretend, we're doing that part. And we could always cover it so we're not going to get confused. Oops. And that's still a whole lot to do. But we see there's a value scale again of super dark darks in the holes. But since this isn't a solid structure, it's not pure black as if this was like a tube, a poster tube. I got one of those poster tubes in the room here. So it's not going to be pitch black in there. You can still see some patterns. So anyway, I will just kind of have some fun and add some. And yeah, this obviously could take a person still forever because there is a lot of it here. So I'm just gonna kind of be and repetitious things like this can often drive certain kinds of people like me crazy. It can make you lose your mind. And then you get to a point where you're like, oh, forget it. I can't see all these. And then you start just being more symbolic, right? But, it is good to look. And sometimes I will force myself to go slowly and just look at different parts here. Yeah, so that I'm not getting all of the circles, the same size. Nature is a very messy place. And, the holes on the edge here, we're looking at them from the side, so they're going to be smaller. So there is some rhyme and reason to this in terms of the size. But again, we have a bunch of bigger circles and then some smaller circles between them. Okay. And then, so, yeah, and then I could, get the darkest darks in first. So sometimes that's what I'll do. I'll get the lightest lights and then the darkest darks. But remember that you can see the holes through. And in fact, the holes are lighter inside. So I'm going to try to get dark around the holes. Something like that. Yeah, and when you're journaling something, often I will get a drawing in first. And then after I've looked at it long enough to understand its structure, and then if it was something living in the field where I could understand some behavior too, then I would start to add some more words. And so isn't that fun? A little bit indescribable, right? So remember, the International Nature Journaling Week is celebrated for 7 days, starting today on Sunday. And each day has a different prompt. And I'm probably only going to go live with this first day because I've got a bunch of other things I'm teaching and preparing this week. But you can look on the website, International Nature Journaling, week.com and see the other prompts for the other weeks. Let's see, where's my sun icon? How can I keep losing things? It was right here somewhere. So anyway, our sun's coming from this way. Hopefully you can see it a bit. So I'm just going to shade the edges here. And then there's a dark cast shadow. If I had this here, you would see more of a cast shadow down here, but not a super solid one like we had on the scapula, because there's holes. These holes go all the way through, and they are making lighter areas in the cast shadow. So a cast shadow can tell you, when you're drawing a cast shadow, it can tell your viewer a lot about the subject. It can tell your viewer what the surface is that the thing is sitting on, like if it's sitting on sand. Have I given you any more hints that it lives in the desert on sand? Anybody? Anybody? Boy, yesterday I had a lot more comments in the chat box. I don't think. Anyway, today's event was very last minute, so not very many people got to hear about it in my newsletter. I just sent the newsletter out like a couple hours ago. As usual, I'm doing a lot of other stuff. That's kind of fun, isn't it? So, anybody know what this is? This is a cholla skeleton. Speaking of skeletons, so that's a kind of a cactus. So they actually create this very hard structure. When you think of cactus, you can think of like, well, a big saguaro cactus or, a prickly pear cactus. And you think of them as being soft and squishy and holding a lot of water. But when they die, they definitely dry up into these skeletons. Isn't that cool? So, again, if we wanted to, we could note some things about them. Oh, sorry, I just do not have the right pens today, so you can't see anything. This is my favorite pen. Yeah. So it's this lives in the deserts of the U.S., probably down into Mexico. And it's very woody. There's no scent. It sounds hollow. It's very regular with these different sizes of the holes. Kind of 3 different sizes of big holes, and then littler holes and littler holes. So that's fun. Okay. Well, so, when you're journaling, again, you can think about adding your metadata, like the date and location. Or if you're just sketching from a photo or a real specimen. And anything else you've learned about your structure, maybe, studying it on the internet, that kind of thing. So really, acting like a scientist or even like an 18th century explorer when you're observing something, even if you know what it is. Like yesterday, we were sketching this claw and, this shell that's sometimes the more indescribable and odd something is, the better job you can do on it because you're really looking at it clearly. And you can also think of yourself as a journalist. You know, you've got your who, your what, your when, your where, and your why. So, you know, you can ask some questions about what you're drawing. Like, why are there 3 different sizes of holes? And what came out of those? Were there other branches coming out of those, or was that fleshy? So you just really want to be inquisitive. All right. Okay, so I'm going to get going. It's been almost an hour. I need to get going. So thank you so much for joining me today. And I do hope that you check out the International Nature Journaling Week website that's run by Beth Ann Burton over in Australia. And if you're interested in learning more from me, you probably know where to find me at christineelder.com. I'm actually starting a new program that I'm really excited about. It's going to be a monthly online nature sketching program that has a big community component to it. I haven't quite named it yet, but I'm going to be taking founding members pretty soon, and I'll be telling people about that in my email list. So if you want to get a hold of me, if you're interested in my program, my email is hello@christineelder.com. And this online program of nature sketching and journaling will have weekly creative prompts. It will have monthly live sessions like this, and it'll start at just $19 a month. Okay, I'm losing my voice. I've got to get back to fixing my throat. So take care. Bye-bye.